Let's get started. My name is Stanislav Gorski, and I'm a software developer. And today we will be talking about Ruby on Rails and the perspective of a prototyping tool. Well, this talk was originally inspired by Peep Puleric. Who is not, unfortunately, here in the building right now, and he did a talk at Agile Saturday earlier this winter, probably, or autumn, and he was doing demo about what approaches do you take when you prototype products and create MVPs. And though he used different technology stack to do his talk and demo. Well, the main reason why I do this talk is, of course, not to repeat what he already did, but to introduce Rails through this approach and show that Ruby on Rails might be a really good tool for such purposes. So, and during this session tonight, we will be building a Peep mail, which would be a messaging web application with a restriction that you only can exchange messages with length not less than 2,000 symbols. Such a antidote to Twitter, you know. Well, but first a couple words about Ruby. Everybody knows probably that Ruby is a programming language, but can anybody tell how it's different from Java, for example?
Dynamic.
Correct. Dynamic. Well, that's basically, yeah, pretty much it about Ruby. And from the Ruby language official website, they say that it's a dynamic open source language where they focus on simplicity and productivity. And that's pretty awesome, in my opinion. And then maybe a couple of words about syntax. You comment lines with the hashtag, and then you use indentation, and you use these do-end constructions instead of curly braces. And what else? Here you can see how a method is defined with the keyword def. Then this initializer method plays a class constructor role, and also you can even see in salute method example of how you interpolate string. So then also a little bit about naming conventions. You normally name files with lowercase underscore, and you name modules and classes camel case style. If you have some constants, then you use uppercase underscore naming convention. And for all the rest, you use normal underscore naming convention. And if you can see that you prepend add to global variables, that makes them visible outside the scope. So this is pretty much it. And then a little bit about Rails. Rails is, we can call it default framework, default web framework for Ruby language. And What's good about Rails is that it uses convention over configuration and has some really simple yet really powerful API, which allows you as a developer write less configuration and boilerplate code and more business logic instead. You deliver more value and everybody is more happy as a result. And well, Rails uses MVC architectural pattern, and I guess most of you know about MVC. So if you don't know, worry, I will briefly explain it to you. So when browser requests some URL, this request gets processed by controller, and controller renders view back to browser. And if necessary, controller applies to model classes, and model classes, if necessary, interact with the database. Simple as this. One more thing before we dive deeper into the demo. By default, Rails uses embedded Ruby templating engine for views, which looks like this. I'm not sure if it's readable here. Is it? Good enough. Okay, so it's pretty common practice among many different languages and frameworks. You just embed Ruby code snippets into HTML. And I personally, and also a big part of Ruby community, I suppose, and Rails community, prefer using other templating engines, which allow you to write more sane and readable view code. It might hurt your eyes at the beginning, but in 10 minutes or so you get used to it, and then you cannot just go back to normal embedded Ruby templating. This one I will be using in my demo called Hummel. If you ever used some, I don't know, Jade for Node.js or Emblem.js or any other similar templating engine, then you might be familiar with this one already. So the principle behind how it works is really simple. You basically mark HTML elements with percentage mark, and then append classes and IDs as CSS selectors, and you embed Ruby with equation mark, and all the rest you need there you just pass in within a hash. There is no such example, but I will show you on the go when we get to the demo. Well, I guess that's it. We're ready for the demo, probably. I'm not expecting you to shout out, yeah, so I just will be assuming. So let's then go. To sum it up, we will be doing a PepMail application, which will be a messaging web application which only allows to exchange messages longer than 2,000 characters. And let's get started with the first user story. Let's first get the basic application up and running. Small disclaimer, I will be using some side notes here. So, and I also prepared a couple of snippets for like more like don't bother to type myself parts. So let's then go. First, well, preconditions. I have already pre-installed the latest version of Ruby, which is, in my case, like 2.2.0, and I created PepMail gemset. Gemset, you can treat to gemset as a collection of dependencies. In Ruby, packages or like external libraries are called gem. Rails itself is also a gem. So Rails ships a number of generators and also a generator for a new project. So we just go Rails new pep mail. That would be enough, but I would also add a D flag, which stands for database, and replace default MySQL database to Postgres. PostgreSQL. All right. So it generates number of stuff, then runs bundle. What's bundler? Bundler is also a Ruby gem, which is a dependency manager for Ruby projects. So it bundles all the dependent gems for the projects, so we can have all the necessary code ready to get started. And after it's done, so we can see that it created pepmail directory. And let's initialize Git here as well right away. And let me open it in Sublime. So the structure is then following. The stuff we are interested in the most are placed in app directory. We have assets, normally images, style sheets, and JavaScripts. We have controllers which process our requests and render responses. We have helpers, which are methods we can use in views to encapsulate view-specific logic, to not populate our view files with some logic. Then we have mailers for mailers, and models for business logics and views. Okay, and bunch of configuration stuff. And in our gem file we have all our dependencies listed. Rails nicely provided bunch of comments for each dependency. So what we are going to do, we're going to add our HAML dependency first. And also in development and test group, we are going to need one other gem called quiet assets. It's not really necessary here, but it trims all the assets rendering from server logs in development environment, so it's provides more readability. So that's it. So we can run bundle again. And we're good to go. So we have an application layout which is a master view where we inject all the content specific views, and we are going to replace application layout HTML with embedded Ruby with HAML first. So, and then rename the file with the correct extension. Sorry, not this one. Well, that's it. So now we also, before we get up and running in our application config file, I would like to insert a couple of generator tweaks. Thing is that by default Rails generator generates a bunch of stuff which is often unnecessary, and for example helpers, JBuilder for JSON views for APIs, and style sheets and JavaScripts per each resource, which is not really needed here, so we just disable it to not to pollute our project. So after that one we can, give me a second, I will select correct version of Ruby. After that one, we can run Rails server with command Rails S or Rails server, and we expect to see our application up and running on localhost port 3000. And it says that we have no database for that. Okay, so let's create the database. Rails has this Ruby make tasks to maintain database creation and management. So we can call rake database create. So now we have a database, and now we definitely expect our Rails server to be running. Okay, we're writing Ruby on Rails. That's great. I also configured my Nginx to make the same localhost 3000 be available at pepmail.dev to separate my cache between different projects. So well, that is it. We got the basic application up and running. Now let's first show list of messages. For this one, we first generate a model class, and we can do it with using Rails generator. And we can call Rails generators by calling Rails gene controller model. We can call it message, and here we can provide list of attributes and data types for them. So it will have rom attribute, which will be a string, then to, also string, then subject, and body, which will be a text field. So good, and we can see that it created a model class file and also a migration file to apply migration to database automatically. We can take a look at those and see what they have in them. So class message is just an empty class which inherits from active record base, which is Ruby on Rails ORM. And it also created migrations, which creates table with fields given, and also adds timestamps created by and updated by, and manages them themselves. So now we can migrate the database with rake command as well. And now we have our table created. So Rails also ships a seeds file to manage for easier seed data management. And in seeds we can even see an example how do we do seeds. I have also a snippet for long text message, some lorem ipsum stuff. The say text is this one, and we create a couple of messages just to seed our database with some dummy data. From and to in respect to Pep Puleritz, who inspired me to do this talk, then and the body will be this text. That's it. And we also create another one from Pep to myself with the same stuff. We can run a seed rake command to seed the database. That's it. So we have our model, we have database, we have data. Now we need to maybe add validation. So we expect for our model some fields to be present, like we want to know like where it comes from, where it comes to, and what's the message. So Rails ships in the box validators, which are really easy to use. We can just say validates from to. We don't necessarily need subject, so we validate also body, and we say that presence should be true. As easy as that. And
of course, why aren't they in there in this message class, like properties in there in this message?
Because according to Rails philosophy, we don't have separate that data access layer. We do it directly. Model does it for us. And well, so just commit it. Oh, I forgot to do initial commit, whatever. Commit. Good enough. Then also let's generate a controller so we can handle responses as well. For controller, we also have generator. According to convention, models are named in singular and controllers are named in plural. For controller, we just provide array of action names we want there to be present. Currently, we only need index action to list all the messages. And it's created messages controller and added route for this controller in our route file, and also created a view. It was like already smart enough and knew that we use XAML, and it created like XAML file. So let's take a look at this controller first. It just also like nearly empty class which inherits from application controller, and which it inherits from action controller base module, and we have index action, and in the views we have corresponding index view. So if we go to messages, we don't have route messages probably, or do we? Or maybe we need to. Yeah, we have route messages index, which is kind of lame. We want it to be /messages. For that, Rails routing system ships resources. You can think of resource, well, if you're familiar with RESTful API principles, then you probably know what resources are. And I would not to explain it in more detail, so we just like write route for resources. And we currently, by default, it ships all the set of resources which are index new for creating new, then show action for showing separate instance, then create where you post the form data, then edit where you edit the form, then update where you like post the update data, and destroy action to destroy an instance. But currently we only need index for that, and we also route our application to messages index. And that's it. We can get rid of all of this one, and also of this one too. That's it. Just in case, I will restart my server. And then, sorry. Then if we go route to our application, we see that messages index u. So, and this is exactly the text which gets rendered. Let's now render some actual messages. Let's maybe first load messages from messages controller, we can use a global variable here, so it's available in views, and we just load all messages, a message, all, that's it. And here we have this messages variable now available, which is a collection of messages, and we can just do it like this. We iterate over each message and pass it to block and render some Bootstrap classes, so we're going to use them later on, and we put message from with string interpolation and message subject, and also message body. That's it. And now if we take a look at our application, we really do have our seed data messages from Pep to myself and from myself to Pep. Well, this is just great. Let's make it more pretty like this. And now if we take the definition of story 2, we do show a list of messages, which is just great. Just add everything and commit. Show messages list. Okay, now we go to next story, which is make it look sweet. It really does look ugly, isn't it? So for that we are going to use plain Bootstrap, which will be good enough for prototyping. Which I will just copy JavaScript and style sheets files here. Bootstrap, CSS, actually everything to vendor. Despite the fact we have directory app/assets/style sheets, we only keep our own assets, and all the external assets we keep in vendor directory, so we don't get confused. Assets, style sheets, good. And also with JavaScript, okay, we have Bootstrap stuff there. Now we need to load them, and we load them. We have, if we take a look at our application layout, then it loads a style sheet called application, which is style sheet manifest, where you load everything else, and same goes for JavaScript. And if we take a look at application CSS, we can see that it requires tree, which is like directory tree where it is, and it requires self. So it should be good enough because, well, probably not. But let's see, yeah, it's not good enough because those assets are in our vendor directory, which is not the same. So let's put it here, require Bootstrap. And to application.js, we put after jQuery, we also put Bootstrap. So it requires Bootstrap. Now, when we reload the application, it already looks pretty nice enough. And to make it look a bit more nicer, let's add container class to application layout, and let's add navbar. So we just define class container here, and that's it. And we yield our views to this container class. When we reload the page, all right, container is there. And then I have a code snippet for navbar. I was really lazy to remember how do you write navbar. Well, here this is great opportunity to show how actually partial works in Rails and in Ruby web apps in general. So you can use render function here and pass partial name into it. Render, since we are, if you pass just a name, for example, what's the name, navbar. then it doesn't know like what is it, because it always takes it from the view directory. It looks from messages navbar, application navbar, etc. But we can see that it's in directory. It's in directory layouts. That's it, and let's create the file itself as well. Well, you name partials starting with underscore, so the application knows it's a partial. And let's copy the navbar code here too. So when we reload the application, we can see that our navbar nicely appeared here. So let's then commit. By the way, I am terribly sorry, I forgot to tell you. If you have any questions, then shoot right away, because they tend to get forgotten. So I guess the definition is fulfilled pretty much. We did make it look quite sweet. Then next story is that we need to be able to create new message. To simplify user experience, I propose that we add a new message form right to the bottom after our messages, so we don't create new view for that one. And we will use also partial for rendering view form. So in index view, we just say that we render partial called new. And since it's in the same directory, we can call it explicitly new. And we also create new partial. Well, and for new partial, we will have form. One more reason that I like HAML is that it integrates with native Ruby so well. You can just like write Ruby and it feels like you're just writing some normal Ruby, not even some HTML. So we use form for Rails helper, and we pass, if we take a look at the documentation for, so you pass in record and options and a block. I forgot to mention that Ruby methods can take a block as an argument, and then you can like invoke this block and write some stuff into this block. Who is familiar with this concept? Well, then it's great. Well, and we create a form for message resource, and we don't pass any option. We just put do, and we put iterator, and we put class form group. It's Bootstrap class forms. We can even actually put it right here, and we use form text field for 2. We say that it's required, true, and we also pass class in, class form control, and maybe also placeholder. Two and comma here. Then we need same one for from. Actually, it goes upwards even. From to, then subject, which is not required, and body. And body is text area, so we can like insert bigger multi-line text. Body. That's it. And we also add submit tag. And if we take a look at submit documentation, it takes value, which defaults to nil, and block of options. We put value as a nil because Rails is smart enough to figure out appropriate name for the button name, and we pass to options block to options hash class and make it Bootstrap button primary, for example. Okay, and now we expect to have some error because we have not yet defined. We also have syntax error here as well, but we have not defined our message variable. It's nil yet, so we go back to message controller and say that we have message here, which is just a new message. If we reload, then we see a form here. Now we need to somewhere send this stuff. For this one, we will use default create controller action in our application, in our messages controller. So we create action, and we just and here actually what we receive is a bunch of params, which is a hash, and we have this params method available here, and we can just create a message instance from those params, and this is exactly what we will be doing. Create from params, but starting from Rails version 4.0, it is prohibited to use those params as is. For security reasons, we need to first somehow sanitize them, and we will create another private method for this one. So we call it message params, and here we define private modifier and create a method message params, and on params what we have here we call require, which requires key, and key will be message, and permit the attributes we really want to save to database, and all the rest gets trimmed out from params, and permit to from subject and body. Well, that's it. And we also need to add a route for this one. In our route files, we put, now we don't pass a single argument, but an array of arguments, create. Well, this is pretty much it. We should be able by now to create new message. From Stanislav, sincerely, to Pep. Whoa. This is good name, yeah. And alright, they say template is missing. And this message we receive because after we create new message, we don't do nothing, and by default it tries to render a view, and a template for view is missing. So after that we redirect to root path, and the root path is this messages index path. So now after we resubmit form, then we see that it actually got created even twice because it got cached somehow. So, well, this is it, I guess. Only one thing left to do is that I would really prefer to see newest messages on top. And this we can quickly fix in our messages controller. We just say that instead of all messages, we call messages order, and we order by created at, at. This is this timestamp attribute which was generated with the migration file. And in the setting order, we reload and see that they appear in the beginning of our view template. So that's it. I guess it's good enough to make a commit. And then what's next is that we had this constraint that we should validate message length. And first, I would propose to do it in message model class to make sure we don't get any invalid data to database. We can use the same validator for body, and we have not only presence validator but bunch of other validators. For example, length, I believe, and it takes a hash of arguments, so we can like put range, and we say that minimum is 2000. That's it. I guess we are not bothering with error messages in our controller for time-saving purpose, but quick disclaimer, adding error messages feature is really easy here. We just can over this message instance can iterate, call message errors and even errors.full messages on it, and it provides array of human readable message error strings. So, but we will skip this for now, and just ensure that we cannot create any new short text messages, but we can create long ones. From Stanislav sincerely to Pep. And we try to create it, it redirects back, there is no such message. And if we try to create long one, and copy paste this text from here, then we can see that it successfully was created. Well, and also we don't want to get our users mad by submitting invalid forms, so let's maybe use advantage of HTML5 built-in form validators, and we just put that for this text area, we say that it's required, and we put min length 2000 and consider it good enough. New. So here we say that required true and min length is 2000. Let's then give it a try. Okay, maybe we should reload the view. Okay. Yeah, we see it works, and it says that I only type 10 characters, but I need 2000. Well, for me it's good enough, and I'm really satisfied. So we go with the commit that we added. Message length validation. I hope you are not bored to death yet. So then another user story. There's two more left, so patience, please. Is that we only need to show current user addressed messages, because right now it's just some stupid block everyone can post in. So for this one, we would probably need another controller and which will be managing sessions. So let's create the session controller. And we will need actions of new, where will be this sign-in form, then create, where will be this form submitted, and also by default Rails resources have this destroy action, which destroys a single instance, but for session we actually don't have this instance term, so we can just use collection action, and we call it similarly like delete, so we don't mess up with this sensible defaults. And we create a delete action, so it generates controller. So long, it cannot be that long. Okay, good. Then it created sessions controller, then created routes, and also created views for each action. We do not need those views first of all. We only need one view for new, and those we can delete, and we'll be like really okay with this one. And in routes we will use the same resources style for sessions, and we only will be using new and create action, and we now can use this advantage of a block and to pass a name for custom delete resource. So we will call get request to on collection, sorry, so we call on collection, and we pass and a block here. For block in Ruby there's like two ways of writing block. First is this do end construction, which is normally used for multi-line blocks, and if you're okay with single line block you can just use curly braces. And here you put get to delete. That's it. So, and if we call rake routes, so it shows you our routes. We have for sessions get action to sessions new, then sessions create for get. Really? Yeah, of course, because I didn't delete those ones. We have a get action for new session, then a post action to sessions endpoint, and get to session delete, so we can successfully log out. And in our session controller we have dummy methods. So new method should not be really doing anything. It just renders view, which is default behavior for this one, so we don't really have to write anything here. Let's not maybe run up front, so let's maybe implement the view part, and then it will be like more clear what to do next with the business logic and behavior. So in messages partial, we use this form for helper, which takes in resource. But if we don't have a resource, like dedicated resource, we can use form tag, which just like creates plain form. So this is what we will be doing here. Form tag. And for form tag we get URL for options and block. So we send it to sessions and pass block in. And here we have first legend. Then we have form group, CSS class, and here we send in or render text field tag using also Rails helper. For user and with and it's required, and with class form control. And it also has placeholder. Another one we will have for password, and we have password field tag helper as well. So for password, that's it, and submit tag. And in here it would be good to send in value. It has already value and the options. And for options we have class, button primary, and button block, so it looks nice. Let's maybe take a look at this one. Session/new. What's that? It's because text field tag requires value first, and value we send in nil, and nil in Ruby is null object. So, and let's maybe make it look a bit more like centered. So we use Bootstrap classes, great classes for that. And with offset. And intended here. So HAML is indentation-based templating engines. This is why you don't have to close the tags. Yeah, considering screen resolution, not much changed. How come? Okay, this should be like replaced with like this. So first you have value, and then you have this name. Okay, that's good. And we cannot sign in because it's required. Now let's work on this create action where we receive our params. We will be receiving params in such manner. So it will be a hash of attributes. One will be user, because this field is user, some value, and a password. So this is what we can do with those params. We have also a session variable available in our controllers. So we just place username to session, that's it. I remind you that we do only prototype. We are brutally ignoring all the security issues here. So yeah, deal with it. Equals params add key user. That's it, and we redirect to root path, which is list of our messages. And this is nearly the same we use in our delete action, but only that we assign session at user to null object. And this is pretty much it. With this one we can already sign in and sign out, but later on we will be needing current user helper available in views to show logout button, for example. So we can create our own helpers. Helpers are Ruby methods available in controllers, in application controllers or helpers, helpers module. So since current user method will carry some logic inside, it will be wise to have it in controller as well, because you can rely on it in controller later on. And so in order to make it available in all our controllers, we can define it in our application controller, which other controllers inherit from. So here we just say that it already, you see, it has some forgery protection by default built in. We define method current user, and we just return session at user. In Ruby, the last line of each method returns always, so we don't have to use return statement. And making it helper method, it's really easy. We just say that it's helper method, and that's it. Now we can try sign in. Actually, we do nothing with our password. We just randomly type in something, and it thinks it's good enough. And well, let's maybe commit intermediate result. And what we also need to do here is that first of all, prevent unauthorized users to access this message's root path. For example, if I log out here right now, sessions delete, then I logged out, and I still can access it. In the controllers are available callbacks. So you can use around actions before or after, or both. And so in messages controller, we use before action callback. So, and here we can pass method name which to execute, or we pass a block and write code into a block. This would be like good enough in our case. And here we say that before action we redirect to new session path unless current user. This is my favorite part about Ruby language. It is extremely human readable. Basically, it says plain English sentence that you redirect to a new session path unless current user. Well, and let's try it out now. Reload page, and we get to new session. And we try to go to here again, and still we get to new session. So let's maybe make a commit. Well, and one tiny last thing left to do is that we currently see all the messages together here, which is not really correct behavior. We only need to render current user related messages, and this we can resolve in our controller, because controllers are responsible for preparing data for views. So in our messages controller, here instead of ordering all the messages, we can put in between where a method which comes from active record query interface, which is Rails ORM or ORM used in Rails, and then you can it will be still active record collection. Then we can later on chain this order method, and it will create really smart query we can take a look at on later. So so we say that where 2 is current user. That's it. Let's reload. And now we see that as Stanislav, I only see messages from tab, which is one single message. Then I guess Pep apologized me. I will log in as him, so I can see that ensure that he I mean, only sees my messages I sent to him and know his own messages. Well, that's it. I guess it's good enough already. Show. Then it would be really nice to have this logout button there, somewhere here. Luckily I have it in snippet, so it's like really less of effort. In navbar we can put it here, and it basically says that if we have current user, because null object or nil evaluates to false, so it doesn't get executed, we render this part with create some unsorted list with classes nav and navbar and whatever, and we render list item where is link to, which generates links, and this is a helper from Rails again to delete session path, which is session/delete, and reload the page. See, is there. We sign out, we sign in and sign out. Great. Link actually, but okay. Well, one tiny detail left to show you, and then you can go home. So what's missing, or what's actually extra, it became redundant after we introduced this current user feature, is this from value. Our application knows already like who the message come from, so we can drop it. First, let's drop it in from new form. Here we just like remove this one, and in message controller we do not permit this from param, and instead to message params we just merge a new hash with key from and value of current user. This is it. So we try it out how it works. I first log in as myself, then write a message to pip with the subject hello pip, this is me, and some body. Then I send the message. Yeah. It's good, it's really good. Send a message. Sorry once again. And I see that this is really from myself, and this is the same message I have just sent. So we commit this final thing, and well, this is probably it from my side. Well, thank you 1,000 times for being so patient. And well, if you got curious about Ruby and Rails, and if you find this style of writing your software interesting and nice, then 2 resources I would recommend you to get started with. I forgot to add the slide, the very last moment. First is this tryruby.org, which is interactive Ruby course, which introduces you the very, very basics of Ruby language, which you, again, already familiar with. And the other is official Ruby on Rails guides, available at guides.rubyonrails.org or .com. Is the best learning source I have ever seen, so you don't actually need any additional YouTube channels or whatever. So, well, this is it. Thank you. Maybe you have any questions to ask, or maybe opinions to share, or anything. Not really. So it was boring. Okay. Well, thank you once again.